Okay? That's where the defense wants to go. That's what they want to argue. Let's bring in our legal think tank tonight to see if they think it's a valid argument, number one, and number two, if a judge will permit it. Is it relevant? Is it fair? Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney Ecleynne Mercy. She's from Atlanta, Georgia. Also in Atlanta, Daryl Cohen, former prosecutor, now defense attorney, also does some entertainment law. And Christopher Melcher is joining us from Woodland Hills, California, family law attorney, trial attorney. Great to have everyone here. Ecleynne, what are your thoughts about what the defense wants to do, what they want the jury to see?
They want the jury to see a drug addict. They want a jury to see that, you know, oh, he was on drugs anyway. He was going to die regardless, and it's kind of sad. They're playing to white sensibilities early on. They're playing to prejudices already early on, and they're getting, they're sowing seeds of doubt for the victim. It's sad that he has to be defended while, you're getting a case from 2019 while Derek Chauvin had complaints in 2019, 18, 17, 16, and he was not only did he keep his job, he was in charge of supervising other law enforcement officers. So it's like, really, I'm disgusted. I understand what they're trying to do. I understand, what you're supposed to do for your clients, but the fact that that's how we have to play it is just it's crazy to me. It's insane to me.
Daryl, is it relevant?
I think it's clearly relevant for the judge outside the presence of the jury. I understand what they're trying to do. And look, let's face it, George Floyd was not a good guy. But let's also face it, George Floyd had a knee to the neck for 8 minutes, probably 7 minutes longer than it should have been. I don't know if it's relevant. It would depend on all of the facts and the circumstances, and clearly what the autopsy has to say. But do I think
him not a good guy, though?
He was not a good guy. What makes him not a good guy? Excuse me. I'm not going to interrupt you, and I love you, and you know it, but I disagree with you.
But
he wasn't a good guy, but he did not
matter?
Deserve to die. He did not deserve to be killed the way he was killed. He had a bad record. He was not a good guy. He had the arrest in 2019. Too. That doesn't make him a good guy, but it also doesn't mean that he should be the victim that he was.
I don't understand
All
why
right, Christopher.
he was a good guy. I don't get it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well,
Christopher, let me put something else out here, Christopher.
Okay.
Christopher, let me put something else on the screen. Something else that the defense wants to get in front of this jury, okay? August 9th, 2007. This is back in Texas, okay? 2007. George Floyd apparently pretended to be a water company employee, then held a woman at gunpoint, and was ultimately convicted of aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. They want to put that in front of the jury as well, Christopher.
Yeah, I just found that was a play to dirty him up, to make him look bad. It's totally irrelevant. think there's no chance that's getting before a jury. I'm offended that they're bringing that up. I don't see any parallels. Like in the other situation, there's parallels. I still don't think it gets to the jury. But this one is clearly designed to change public opinion about him, something that he did long ago. Sure, if he did that, it was a bad thing, but it has absolutely nothing to do with this incident. So I think that's way out of bounds.
Ecleynne, this is what they're saying. I'll put it up on the screen. This is 404B. The old 404B evidence is what they're claiming. The defense offering this to show proof of motive, intent, plan, knowledge, and or absence of mistake or accident. This is what they're claiming in their papers, Ecleynne. They are not conceding cause of death here. They are fighting cause of death.
You know, it's clearly they're just trying to muddy up George Floyd. That has nothing to do. He's not doing anything violent. Matter of fact, he's the one with the with the whole knee in his neck. Why does something that is older than 10 years even being like, why is that even being out? Like, I don't understand it. I get filing motions, but you should be offended that they're just doing that because it's public record. Now you just kind of muddied up the jury, and it's actually upsetting. It's upsetting.
Actually, Ecleynne,
Daryl,
isn't that
let me
what
ask
you
you,
would
Daryl.
do? Isn't that what I do? We always try to muddy it up. Is it right? Would the prosecution believe it's right? No. But representing a person who is charged with a crime and probably is guilty, you do everything you can within the bounds of ethics to have him or her acquitted. So I don't understand how you're
Christopher,
offended. If you
let me
were a
ask you.
prosecutor, I get it.
No, well, when they're marching because of that particular case, then you have to read the room. You have to talk about when people are dying, when people are feeling such angst and fear, and they are marching because of this particular case. It's not a regular case. It's not a case that I'm working on. It's a case that is national coverage. Because it's national coverage, choose your words wisely. Don't just file frivolous things when you know that. Talk to the prosecutor. There are ways that you can do. You know it wasn't going to come in. Like, stop. You just want to muddy the waters. This is not a regular case. This man started a whole, became a catalyst for a whole movement. These are different. Things are
But they're
different.
not different. But they're not different. Inside the courtroom.
It should be. It should
but
be.
they should not be. Inside the courtroom, the defendant or defendants have a right to have 12 men and women make a decision as to whether they are guilty, innocent, or somewhere in between with a mistrial. And it should be treated like every other case once it's in the courtroom.
Not the victim. The defendant, not the victim.
The victim and the defendant.
We are trying George Floyd for dying. That's what we're doing. That's what they're doing. Oh, let's find some things. It's bad. It's bad. All of it is bad. We are trying him for dying. We are just finding reasons. I saw 8 minutes of death. I saw a snuff film. That's what we're focused on. And no, you're bringing up drugs. You're bringing up whatever. Clearly, if Derek Chauvin's knee wasn't on his neck, George Floyd would be here today. Period. That's all it is. But like, we're here and we're bringing up older things. He wasn't combative. He wasn't combative when he's asking for air. He's asking for his mom. Get up. But that's not what he got. So bringing up some old, you're fanning the flames. It's sad.
Christopher, let me jump in there. Christopher, let me ask you, if in fact, let's say the judge permits the body cam footage from May 6, 2019, where George Floyd, in that case, ingests drugs as police are approaching, has to be taken to the hospital. His demeanor is very tearful, much like the body cam we see in this case. How do you think that impacts a jury? What does a jury do with that? Does that make the jury believe that George Floyd ingested fentanyl and died from a fentanyl overdose?
No, I mean, to me, that would only support what I believe happened. This started as a call over a fake $20 bill. And once they got him into handcuffs, it was clear that this was a distress call. This man needed medical assistance. Officer Lane said he noticed some foam in the mouth. You could see from the body cam video that was released, I believe it was today, some white substance on the corner of his mouth. And so they should have known through training that he could have ingested drugs. And this should have been a medical call. And so if he has done the same thing in the past, it would only support the fact that this was a medical situation, not a violent person who needed to be treated that way. So to me, I understand what they're trying to do and flip the narrative and blame the victim. But to me, it only supports the fact that this person needed help and they failed to help him.
All right, when we come back, we're going to take you to the chaos in Kenosha, and it's really unreal. We've got a video to show you of a 17-year-old with an AR-15 who's been charged with murder. But our question is going to be, is it murder or is it self-defense? That's next. Really a very difficult week in Kenosha, Wisconsin, to say the least. And it all began last Sunday at around 5 o'clock when Jacob Blake was shot by police 7 times. We've got some updates on Jacob Blake. He's been in the hospital. You know he can't walk, but he did survive the shooting. There he is with his children who were in the car when he was shot. But during the week, because he's facing charges himself for what happened that day. So while he was in the hospital, he was handcuffed to his bed. And what we're learning tonight from the Washington Post is that the handcuffs have been taken off, but he is still in the hospital. So that's the latest there. But there's another case that now has come out of Kenosha, Wisconsin, and involves a 17-year-old from Illinois. I'm going to show you a picture of him. Here he is. His name is Kyle Rittenhouse. There he is with a gun. He's now been charged with murder and apparently shot or is accused of shooting a couple of demonstrators or protesters or rioters, whatever you want to call them. People use all these different words. But from the complaint against him, this is part of what we are learning from some of the reports, is that Joseph Rosenbaum, who's 36 years old, followed this young man, Rittenhouse, into a used car lot. Now, Rittenhouse has the gun, he's got the AR-15 with him, where he threw a plastic bag at the teenager and attempted to take his weapon. The medical examiner found that Rosenbaum was shot in the groin, back, and hand, and also suffered a superficial wound to his left thigh and a grazed wound to his forehead. Rittenhouse, after that first shooting, then runs down the street and was chased by several people who shouted that he had shot someone before he tripped, fell, according to the complaint, and the video footage. We are going to show you that video footage now because there's 2 different incidents. The first one, we don't have the video of tonight. The second one, we do. Graphic warning, okay, you're going to see it's a shooting. It's in the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin. You're going to see the 17-year-old running down the street. You see someone kind of hit him or try to hit him, and then he veers off and he ends up tripping and then fires the weapon. Let's take a look.
Just shot them! Hey, dude right here just shot them! Dude right here just shot all them down there! That dude just shot them right there! That dude right here! Here!
Someone injured straight ahead?
All right, that's Kyle Rittenhouse, 17 years old. You see him with his hands up, but police did not take him into custody. They were going to respond to the shooting. He's in Illinois now. There's got to be an extradition. It looks like it's been put off for some time because he's getting private counsel now. So he is locked up tonight, but in Illinois. So let's bring in the think tank and talk about this one because his attorneys have said publicly that this is a case of self-defense. self-defense, that he was approached and attacked first by Rosenbaum and then is running away and again is attacked once more. So, Christopher Melcher, I'll start with you. What do you see when you see that video? Do you see self-defense? Do you see murder?
Well, we certainly don't know what happened in the first incident, and but on that second one, yeah, he's being chased. He's fallen. People are saying, "Go get him," and so certainly he's at some risk at that point. But I didn't see that anyone else was pointing a weapon at him. So to be able to use deadly force, you have to be in some reasonable fear that that type of force is going to be used against you or somebody else. So that seems like it's going to be a hard one. What I was surprised about, though, was that how the police drove past him when he was walking with a weapon down the street with his hands up, flagging the police. We have other people identifying him as the shooter, and then we have the police driving past him. I found it remarkable he even had that much trouble even getting arrested, and how other people
I can't get arrested in this town, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the old saying, Daryl? I
was...
can't get arrested in this town?
Well, look, I have so many questions. Where were his parents?
Go ahead.
What is a 17-year-old doing with an AR-15? That is inexcusable. Do I see any defense at all based on all of the video that we have seen? I do not. But I understand when he's walking down the street with his hands up, he appears to be somewhat harmless, even though he has in his hands the automatic weapon. So he looked at the point at that moment as if he was walking away. My hands are up. I'm not doing anything. But the people that were screaming were past him, behind him. So the police on the left did not communicate at that moment with the people on the right who were screaming, "Hey, man, he shot someone." This kid is exactly where he needs to be, treated as an adult, incarcerated, and that's what he needs to be.
All right, I'm going to give you a few more facts that are alleged facts that are coming out of the complaint. They say that one of the other shooting victims was shot in the chest after apparently trying to wrest the gun from Rittenhouse, according to the complaint. And then another shooting victim appeared to be holding a gun, was shot in the left arm after approaching Rittenhouse. Okay, so let's put that into the mix, Ecleynne Mercy. Is there a strong argument, weak argument for self-defense here, based upon what we know now?
Rittenhouse, he wasn't even supposed to be there, or with a gun, or with the AR-15. He was seen talking to law enforcement before all of this happened, and not one person checked his ID. And he has the gun in his hands. It's not hidden. It's not blurry or anything like that. And he was allowed to be on the streets. And then police officers see him and give him way. The first truck, the second truck, he has the weapon. And you have people who were unarmed and they get shot off. They get shot up with all these hypotheticals, and here he has the gun. Wait, it still has the smoke. It just got fired. I can't.
Let's take a listen to the police chief. I'm going to play for you the police chief because he did respond to all this and explained from his perspective what happened after the shooting. Let's listen.
There were a lot of people in the area, a lot of people with weapons, and unfortunately, a lot of gunfire. They see somebody walking toward them with his hands up. That, too, isn't out of the ordinary given how the events have been going on. Many people, as I drove around, and others have explained, have seen the same thing. We have armed individuals out protesting or counter-protesting or simply walking around exercising their right. He continued to make contact near the officer's door, and you can hear on the recording I heard that the officers are telling him to get out of the way. Clearly, they're not seeing him as a suspect or a threat of any kind. He's allowed to leave where he goes to Antioch and turns himself in.
All right. Christopher, what do you think of what the chief had to say, that the officers, everyone was telling him to get out of the way because they're going to respond to the shooting? The problem is that the shooter is walking past them.
Yeah, I think that really gets down to this inherent bias and stereotyping. And I hate to criticize the police because I am a supporter of the police. But I think ultimately some of the root causes of these problems is how we detect or view threats. And if that was an African American man walking down the street with a weapon, would they have drove past him or would they have stopped him? And I hate to call that out, but why is he not viewed a threat? And why is other people stopped, even if they don't have a weapon? So I just found it remarkable. And I understand it's chaotic. There's a lot going on. But even just for officer safety standpoint, to drive past somebody who has a long rifle, that puts all of those officers who are now, have their backs to him at risk. So even if he was not a threat, they shouldn't have allowed him to be behind them. That just placed them at risk. So I have a lot of trouble with it.
All right, folks, we've got a lot more to talk about tonight. It's been a tough week, a really tough week. Baby EVELYN, that beautiful little girl from Tennessee who went missing, was found dead on her family's property. Well, her teenage mother was back in court today. We'll talk about that when we return.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm crime and justice reporter Julia Janae with your Court TV legal news break. We begin with an incredible story out of Georgia. 39 missing children are safe after an operation led by the U.S. Marshals. Operation Not Forgotten was 2 weeks in the making. It was a mission during the month of August targeting both Atlanta and Macon, Georgia. Of the 39 children who were recovered from the operation, 15 of them were reportedly trafficked for sex. 9 people were arrested, and officials say they face a variety of charges, including sex trafficking, parental kidnapping, and drug possession. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution says the children ranged in age from 3 to 17 years old. And an extradition hearing for the teen suspect in the Kenosha, Wisconsin fatal shootings has been pushed back for a month. Kyle Rittenhouse did not appear at his video hearing that was happening this morning. It lasted only a few minutes. An Illinois judge agreed to postpone a decision on whether Rittenhouse would be extradited to Wisconsin. That's going to be held until September 25th. A court-appointed attorney for the teen said the delay would allow the defendant time to meet with a private attorney, which has happened. In the meantime, the 17-year-old will remain in an Illinois Lake County jail. Rittenhouse faces felony charges for homicide and attempted homicide during the night of unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Earlier this week, it left 2 people dead and a third person seriously hurt. His lawyers claim that the teen has been wrongfully charged and was acting in self-defense. And a Nevada State House candidate and a Georgia mayor find themselves in a little bit of trouble. Starting in Nevada, Brandon Cassett of Henderson is accused of fraudulently obtaining $500,000 in COVID-19 relief funds. He then allegedly laundered that money to purchase a home. The criminal complaint alleges that Cassett received 2 separate checks, one for his business, one for a charity, and he used those checks written out to friends and family to launder the money and then redirected it to buy a $400,000 home. He was arrested on federal charges. And the mayor of Nashville, Georgia, turned himself in and was arrested without incident following an investigation into property damage by a public official. Scarborough faces theft by conversion and theft of services after he was accused of taking an excavator without permission and then caused significant damage to the machine. That wraps up your Court TV legal news break.
On the docket tonight, the tragic story of baby EVELYN.
EVELYN. Hi.
15-month-old baby EVELYN Boswell, a beautiful blue-eyed toddler from Tennessee, being raised by her teen mom Megan, goes missing with an Amber Alert issued on February 19th, 2020.
We remain committed and continue to do everything possible to find out what happened to EVELYN. And as always, as soon as relevant information and accurate information, I want to really reiterate that. As it comes to us, we will get that out as soon as possible, okay? Anyone with relevant information concerning EVELYN's whereabouts are asked to call 1-800-TBI-FIND.
But that Amber Alert was not issued on the day she went missing. Baby EVELYN actually disappeared in late 2019. And her mom said she didn't report her missing because she knew the person who had her and did not want them to take off with her.
I've told TBI where to find her in Mendota. My mom took her to a campground and a silver camper, and if they don't go tonight, I'm gonna go find her myself. Just bring her back.
Look in her camera.
I just want her back, that's all I want. I've been so long without her, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, why didn't you report it missing earlier? Because my mom threatened me, and I just want her back. That's all I can think about is how much I just want her back.
But investigators were not buying Megan Boswell's stories.
Aware that we've received a number of conflicting, inaccurate statements from the mother, Megan Boswell, EVELYN's mother.
What happens next is a strange string of events. First, EVELYN's grandmother, Angela, is arrested with her boyfriend in North Carolina for possession of a stolen vehicle, which was part of the Amber Alert. Then EVELYN's mom is arrested in Tennessee for making false statements.
We determined that some of the statements Megan Boswell provided to us were false. Many of the false statements that Megan made delayed our investigations and also impeded our investigations on trying to find EVELYN. As a result, she has been charged with false reporting.
Are there any questions about that? Ms. Baldwin, are there any questions about that?
Then big breaking news. 2 weeks after EVELYN was reported missing, a toddler's remains are found.
This evening, we received information that led TBI agents and Sullivan County detectives to a property belonging to a family member of EVELYN's mother in the 500 block of Muddy Creek Road in Blumpville. During the search, investigators discovered human remains believed to be those of a 15-month-old girl. The remains will be sent for an autopsy and a positive identification.
Finally, on August 16th, 6 months to the day that the Amber Alert went out about baby EVELYN's disappearance, investigators announce.
This afternoon, the grand jury of Sullivan County returned a true bill of presentment charging Megan Boswell with a total of 19 counts.
19 counts, including 2 counts of felony murder. Investigators say they are confident in their case.
As a result of false information given by the defendant, along with misinformation circulated in the community, there's been a lot of confusion in the case. I want to be clear when I say that after an extensive and thorough investigation, other individuals were eliminated as suspects, and Megan Boswell became the sole suspect in this case.
All right, this is incredibly tragic, but the question is, when we get to the trial, what is this trial going to be about? What's it going to be like? Is it going to be a trial about a beautiful little girl who was murdered? Or is it going to be about a young girl who had a baby, a young girl who had parents in a home where she was abused? Is it going to be about a girl who had parents who had run-ins with the law? I'm talking about the teenage mother of baby EVELYN. Let's bring back in our think tank. Ecleynne, what do you think happens at this trial? What does the jury hear a story of? Do you think it's going to be a story of this teen mom who had a horrible, horrible life? I mean, for some reason, I think that's what we're going to hear.
Absolutely. You know, you start off on how she was conceived all the way up until where they're at today. You have to pack on the tears and basically say she's a victim of her environment, a victim of circumstance. And you actually, you do like a plan B and just put it on somebody else, that she was merely a product of her environment and her actions are because of, her mom not loving her, her dad not being there. You're going to have to play the game in order to make some type of leeway, because the facts are pretty bad here. The facts are pretty awful.
The facts are bad, Daryl, in this one. And, this little baby EVELYN didn't have a chance. I mean, that household was chaotic, to say the least. But I'm just afraid sometimes at these trials, Daryl, you don't see the trees through the forest. because there's not going to be anyone in that courtroom for baby Evelyn. No one's going to be there. Her grandparents aren't showing up to court. The only time they show up to court is when, they're wearing orange suits. They're not going to be there for this. There's not going to be anyone there for this baby.
Actually, I think there will be there. First of all, Vinny, I want to know what the autopsy has to say. If it says what I think it says, then there will be somebody for that child. Every time the prosecutor talks about the victim and brings forth to the jury a picture of that precious little child, that jury will empathize and sympathize. And I don't see any way that the mother, who, had she kept her mouth shut, would not have worried about the truth, because once you tell something, you have to remember it if it's not the truth. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said. This mother, this defendant, is not a victim. She is a defendant and charged with murder, and likely should be. And if the autopsy shows what I think it's going to show, she'll be convicted.
Christopher, my concern here is I covered a case. I'm not going to say the name, but she was the most hated woman in America. She had a beautiful daughter named Ecleynne Marie, and she lied, and proven lies. And just like this mother lied. But at the end of the day, the jury sent her home, amazingly. I'm just afraid that could happen here again.
Yeah, it's amazing, and we've all seen it before. And to me, at least the way that I think is that those lies should come back to haunt Megan. That she did impede, she did delay the investigation. This was her own child. It was a 15-month-old child that she had raised, and instead of acknowledging whatever happened, she lied about it, tried to blame other people for it. And so to me, that shows somebody who's heartless, who didn't care about this child. And I'm always shocked that somebody could be fooled on a jury to think that these stories about her background that may have led her to do whatever she did to this child is somehow justification for the crime to find her or to say that she's not guilty. And it's infuriating, but I'm hoping that common sense will prevail. And you see that somebody who lied in one respect should not be trusted in any respect regarding their child.
Hey, Vinny, we're talking about Casey Anthony before.
Go ahead.
But let's face it, Casey Anthony, the state attorney's office went for the death penalty. And that, in my view, is what made the jury nervous. And they were fearful that if they convicted her, she would receive the death penalty. That is what turned it, in my view.
All right, we're going to continue to track this one. It's on our docket here at Court TV. Next court date coming up is 3rd, 2020, December 3rd, 2020. Trial date to be determined. There you have it. All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to take a look at your reaction. I pose this because it's been such a difficult week. I mean, incredibly difficult for Kenosha and for America. How do we restore peace? Where is that going to come from? How do we get there? Your reaction next.
To everyone who's been abiding by the nightly curfew, thank you, thank you, thank you. I support everybody's right to protest peacefully, but I think we found that people going home after dark has played a significant role tamping down the violence and the destruction the last couple of nights. I've also stated in the last couple of days that we're committed to working with the city and on a new path forward to bring our community back together and to seek a change that is needed, but peacefully.
All right, looking for peace after, this type of reaction. This was from a lot of this footage from last Sunday and Monday in Kenosha, where, fires were set and people were angry and a lot of destruction. And guess what, folks? There's going to be another police shooting. Guarantee it. It'll happen. And what's the reaction going to be? How do we get to the point where we have some level of peace? Where is it going to come from? How are we going to get it? Posted that today on social media. Great reaction, some incredible comments and suggestions. Let's get to our 13th juror comment of the day. And it comes from Marcy, who says, those saying we need change need to be the change. Every police department across the country is hiring. You want change? Then step up and become part of law enforcement and be the change. Ecleynne, Mercy, isn't that the best way to change things from the inside?
That should start, and we should also require law enforcement to be a part of the community that they are policing. We see a lot of, officers who live in rural areas but work in, inner cities, and they don't understand the culture. They don't understand, that our children may look bigger, but they're younger. If you knew that, he may be 6 foot tall, but he's probably only 13. So we need more officers who look like us in our inner cities, in our communities, so we can have more of a community type policing. Or if you don't look like us, live with us. Make sure that you're a part of the community that you're serving, so you have a stake in it. It feels like every time we have officers who have if you're a Black person and you're walking down the street, you are kind of taught to stand and cower when police come by. That's not how it's supposed to be. I should be able to talk. I should be able to walk. But you have a space in which, when officers pass by you, you're frozen in fear. Kids run away when police come. That's not how it's supposed to be. So we do need more community policing.
Next one comes from Cody. There is no answer. Humans have been doing this to each other since the beginning of existence, and the idea of peace is an imagination. There's never been in human history peace. I can't think of a single time in our history of 100% peace because it doesn't exist. So my answer is nothing. Your best bet is to take care of your own and help when you're able, but expect people to be what they are, animals. Daryl, are we animals?
Oh my God, if I believed that, I would cease to exist. I think if the community leaders, African American, Asian, Caucasian, got together, brought in the community, brought in the police, continually had community policing, but not just policing, bring the community together and explain. And so Black kids, African American kids aren't fearful of the police, so that all the kids could play together and be together and go to school together and socialize together. We can get by this. We've got to get rid of the radicals, Black and white, young and old. We've got to make sure that we don't have any more shootings, that the police don't have to, can be the arbiters when African Americans and white militias get together. I am fearful we're going to have a mass murder or two, which maybe will stop it, but I want it stopped before that. It needs to be stopped. It must be stopped.
Daryl Cohen, Ecleynne, Mercy, Christopher Melcher, thank you all so much. Really appreciate your expertise and insight. That's it, folks, for tonight. We're here every night, 8 to 11, going where no one else is going. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to hug the kids.